Hello everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you're all having an amazing day. We're starting off with the white pieces, with the black pieces, sorry, against a 1977 from India. What do we have in store? Looks like it's going into some sort of King's Indian. Against the London system. I'm not a fan. And the way to play this is d5. That's not the way I'm going to play it. I think c5 also a valid option. We are going to stick with more traditional King's Indian ideas. And potentially even go for our knight c6, knight d7 ideas that we've been learning about. We can look for an e5. Is not a bad thing against the King's Indian. It's just not something I want to really play. Very similar to the Fianchetto lines. Is not normal King's Indian stuff. A lot of the stuff is very similar, but it's not exactly the same, which is annoying, but it's something you got to live with. I don't think they should have let us get the e5 break, especially with both our knights here. These are very, very flexible pieces, which I think benefits us, basically. I don't think we're looking for an f5 push necessarily. So we can sort of chill with that one. Their knight coming in isn't a huge problem, so I'm not worried about that. Maybe we want to go a5. I don't think that's a bad move. And it's quite common in the King's Indian to get your knight on c5. And a5 is not only allowing your knight to potentially go to a6 or the other way around, or go to a6 first and then go to c5, but it's stopping their b4 ideas. So they've played a b3, which is strange, because your bishop's not able to come on this diagonal. So you've sort of just made a huge weakness for us, basically, that we can exploit, hopefully. And I don't see why we can't take. Probably not right now. We could look for a b5. We could take and then go to c5. But I think we might just be able to leave that. I really want to go like queen f6. But then they can move the knight because we could take the rook then, I guess. With the queen, go 2 rooks for the queen is interesting. Not something I want to get into right now because I'm not feeling particularly nimble with my calculations at the minute. But we will have a serious think about it. They probably want to go rook a to d1. What squares are best for our pieces is the question, really. Is the question. We could go rook e8, rook a c1, rook c5, and try to get like a piece on d3 with like a bishop f5 potentially, hunting the queen. I don't mind. I don't think we're looking for f5 at all, especially with their strong light diagonal. It's just sort of weakening and a bit unnecessary in my humble opinion. So I think a knight c5 is better, especially because they don't have b4 as a move anymore with our sneaky a5 that we managed to get in. And then this bishop's definitely looking to come to f5 as well. So let's, I think, continue with our plan. We expected them to go rook a to d1 to get off the pin of this dark squared bishop. They look to trade off, which we sort of have to do. We'll get the rook in the game. And we can potentially think about a bit of a kingside attack here if we get the queen and the rook on board, supported by the bishop on the light squares as well. We've got a bit of something. Obviously, the bishop is covering h5 at the minute. But this knight is covering d3, which is huge for us right now. This knight Looks nice, doesn't do anything. I hate to say it. Looks nice, doesn't do anything. Just thinking of what we could do. We could play c5. Where's the knight going afterwards? It's probably going to f4. Where's the queen going? Probably to b2. We could look for bishop e6 and just trade off, get the loose pawn. Then the RC pawn becomes loose though, and I'm not a big fan of that. We'll go for bishop f5. I don't think is too scary. Maybe a rook e6 is necessary to avoid some sort of checks. Don't think they lead anywhere. And there's no bishop d3 because we'll actually probably just take the bishop and then obviously get the exchange afterwards. Yeah. F4, potential move in the future after they move their queen. So maybe we want a queen h4. We've got to be careful though because their knight is a bit of an annoyance. We just have to be a bit cautious. They go there. Now I don't think that's right because knight e4 looks nice. I don't think it's doing anything right now, but it looks nice. And then we have options for c5, maybe. I mean, that's a good start. Knight e4 is a good start. The queen's probably going to end up on b2 regardless, I think. So is knight e4 really necessary? Then we could look to displace this knight with knight f6. Could be quite nice, I think. Could be quite nice. And then it's like sort of like a light square bishop endgame. Unclear. I think unclear is the correct thing to say. Yeah, so queen d4 is a move for sure. We have c5 as an immediate response. Unnecessary. I think knight f6 is better because then we have the option of rook to e4. So we'll go for this. I don't think there's any tactics involved. If they look for an f4, by the way, we'll go rook to e6. So this is after the knight trade-off, by the way. So the rook is covering the queen. And then they've sort of just weakened their position, which is good for us. I think. I hope. Queen there, we just take, right? And then, again, weaken their pawn structure. They go for that. So we'll just weaken their pawn structure now. Why not? They can't take back with the queen, so they have to take back with the pawn. And then this is loose. They're looking for an e4 push, though. They're looking for e4. Takes. Pawn takes. Yeah, nah. But after e4, we have f5 as a move, which I quite like. I don't mind that at all. Yeah, so we'll go around here, stop the bishop coming in here. They do have the pressure here, but I think our pressure on the king side is slightly better. They don't have to play this now, but after a queen e7, they're sort of forced to. And then we'll get f5 in either way, really. We can try... Whoa, that can't be right. That can't be right. That can't be right. Surely you're looking for e4 rather than f4. Ooh. Ooh. I might have to go rook e8. I want to go rook e7, but I quite like our queen activity here. No, we'll go rook e7. We'll go rook e7. We can get the queen in other ways. And this rook's not staying here. Yeah, I don't think that was a good move for them. We'll go queen e8. Immediately looked for this. And if push, then we just win the pawn again. We got to be a bit careful of our A pawn, but that's no big worry. The bishop comes in. Is interesting. We can still look for f5, right? We can still look for f5. Same thing, you know. Now they can get a rook in the game, though. Depends which rook. If they move this rook, then this is happening. But then they just sort of double up. Which is interesting. We can look for queen f7 and then rook e8. And then look to maybe even take is wild. Obviously not with the queen there. It would have to be a pawn takes response. But, you know, stuff with pins and stuff. You know, I think we have the play. It's not much play, I'll admit. But it is a bit of play. Now, we can just go bishop takes and then bishop there, right? And then that's pinned to the rooks. Right? I think so. Because this comes with check now as well. Which is huge. Queen takes, rook takes. Yeah, so now we just go here. And then at least we're threatening to trade off with an advantageous pawn structure, I think. Because our king can weasel its way in. We have to be a bit mindful of our c-pawn, but that's no big issue. G4 doesn't work. We just take. Or take. Probably take the pawn, right? Because we hit the rook anyway. And worst case, we do just trade off. Worst case, we do. We've got a4 as a break. b4, though, doesn't look particularly good. I like to get the queens off. I'd like to just get this into a king and pawn endgame, to be honest. Because I think we have the better position because they have... Oh, they go for this? That's just deadly, though, right? That's just deadly. We have this. Ah, ooh. Ooh, tricky stuff. Tricky stuff. Ah, no, ooh, this is cool. This is very cool, by the way. Takes, check, queen takes, pawn takes, takes. And then we're just winning. Queen takes, we just take that. So we can just do this. We can just do this. Because we're hitting the queen, and they check, we just take. And then what are you doing? What are you doing? We should be winning here. That's a beautiful tactic, though. None of these checks work. I don't think e2 works because the king escapes that way. In fact, that probably did work, actually, because our queen could still take e6. And now we are actually threatening to keep that rook. So they could take here at the minute. Yeah, so we just take this. Do we just take this? Yeah, we can just take that. And then after queen takes, we're just up a rook. We are just up a rook. Love to see it. Very much love to see it. That's got to be a brilliant move. That's got to be one. Gotta. We'll go like queen e4. Yeah, they resign. Beautiful stuff. I think we could have been more accurate with that check there. But that's got to be a brilliant move. It's got to be. In fact, you know what? I might put that on the shorts. We'll see. I'm looking to try make short videos on YouTube Shorts. Maybe upload to TikTok as well. Get a bit more reach out there. I didn't see the accuracy. 92.9% accuracy versus 85.3. Love to see it. 2450 versus 2250. That wasn't a brilliant move, by the way. That was not a brilliant move. That's insane. Yeah, so we just King's Indian setup. You know how it goes. And the computer will want d5, c5 as well. It wants this reverse Queen's Gambit. I don't know the name. I don't play d4, d5, so I don't know any of it. Apparently, we can just go here straight away, which looks like... Actually, no. Yeah, that is fine, because they can't take. They can't take. That just... Yeah. So we wasted a bit of a move getting the other knight in, but hey, it's not the end of the world. A5, best move, by the way. Really happy with that. Get the rook in, because we're not looking to play f5 for the foreseeable. We do end up playing it, but this is actually the way to do it. Then what happens? Please elaborate. I want to know, by the way, was there a tactic here? Knight takes f3. Yeah, like we thought, bishop takes. And then I don't think there's any tactics. You go g5. Ooh. That's cool. Then f5. Wow. You're going all out with the threat of trapping the bishop. They need to play h3 to save the bishop. And king h8. And you go for the King's Indian attack. Wow. That is wild stuff. You know, looking at getting the rook to g8 and then putting pressure on with the queen as well. And this bishop is scary. Scary, scary stuff. Knight c5. They trade off in the center. We get the rook in the center. Sort of awkwardly placed, but also not awkwardly placed. It's strange. Bishop to f5. Yeah, hitting the queen. You might as well. And then this is where we went slightly wrong. Apparently you go bishop to e4. And then I guess you're threatening either rook g5 or queen g5. Or you just trade off and get this similar pawn structure that we had. Or not. Oh, and then you threaten to play b5. That's interesting. They just shuffle, by the way. Apparently their best moves. Yeah, so you trade off. They take. And then you've got to worry about this, but also... Oh, actually, can they not just take this at some point? Wow, you let them take that? And then play rook a. Oh, and I guess at worst yet in that, because they can't go d2, queen d2. And then they're the ones with the bit of an awkward center, and we've got some infiltration on the queen side. Very, very interesting. Anyway, knight e4, then knight back to f6, which I didn't think was the best idea in the world, but the knight was annoying me, and I didn't know what else to do, to be honest. Yeah, I thought f4 here was interesting. No, it was when queen came down, I think. Yeah, and then you go rook there. So this is slightly different to what I thought. With f4. No, you go bishop there. Oh, and you add another defender onto the knight. Oh, and you get... I guess you're not really bothered about the e-pawn, because the queen's there at least, for now. And if takes, you just replace it with the bishop. And then that looks a bit scary. No, apparently not. You take with the pawn. Wow. Okay, interesting. And I guess then the bishops may be supporting d4, e5. What's your plan? Yeah, you go d4. The bishop has to go back here. And then, yeah, e5. And then, I mean, if you take that... No one wants this position. No one alive would ever want this position. Yeah. Makes sense. Knight takes, pawn takes, yeah. And then I played bishop d7 to look for f5 was my idea. Apparently unnecessary. You can just go queen e7. Okay. Ah, wow. Because if they decide to go e4, you have bishop takes. Wow, beautiful. Because takes, you hit the queen and the bishop at the same time. That's really, really cool. I really like that a lot. Wow. Wow, beautiful. Yeah, rook to e8 is the better move. To keep the queen just free a bit. But I like, it's always better to sort of have the rook at the head of the attack. So you've not got your most valuable piece like at the start of the attack, which is more likely to be captured. They decide not to take and walk into some sort of pins. And then bishop takes. Just yucky, because you can never really fix this with the doubled pieces. You could potentially eventually go like queen there and then get the rooks doubled up, and then maybe that would hold, but at the same time, I don't know. The move is to go rook there and just trade off. Then you can do like a bishop takes, and things are looking a lot more calm for white, especially with the queen still on the board. I think this benefits me when I have less pieces on the board, because the king becomes more powerful, being able to work its way into the center, and maybe c6 becomes a bit more viable, or b5, c5, stuff like that. But bishop there, bishop f5, yeah, because if they take, we sort the pin. And this is a really nice tactic, by the way. King f2, instead of reactionarily taking, which leads to mate, king f2, sort of the only move. And then, yes, so this check works. And the reason this sort of didn't work, because they had this move, and obviously if we go like there, then they can sort of take, and then this looks sort of nice for white. Obviously we are up the exchange, but this bishop's a bit of a killer. We might have to give back the exchange at the end of it, but it's a lot more manageable. But luckily we found this takes move, queen takes bishop. And the other move I saw was queen e2, which I didn't think worked, but then the same thing happens. You're still covering e6. So, and at the same time, you're threatening the queen with the defended rook. So maybe you can't go f8 because queen check is mate. So you still have to take, and it leads to about the same position. Maybe now the king's a bit more vulnerable on the side of the board. I think it's going to be bad news if they walk forward. So maybe they have to trade off queens like the computer suggests. And you just up a rook. We're up a rook either way, but I think the check leads to a more forcing critical line. Either way, really fun stuff. Really enjoyed the game. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked. And I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye-bye.